here before, this is the Laughlin Memorial Chapel. They are an after-school program and community center. During the summer they have some camps. They're gracious enough to let us use this space. They're one of Grow High Valley's oldest partners, actually. Danny, who founded Grow High Valley, started working with kids here when he first moved to Wheeling, so it was one of his inspirations for starting Grovey. If you need to use restrooms, they're at the hall and to the right, both men and ladies over there. There's refreshments over here, feel free. If you need to move around during class, no problem, just do what you need to do. We should be done by like 7:30ish, hopefully. So I won't take up any more of Cheryl's time. I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself and get started.
Perfect. Okay, I am Cheryl Kaiser. I work for West Virginia University Extension, and I work out of the Marshall County office. So I'm a Families and Health agent. So if you are, if you know, the Marshall County Fair is going on right now, and most of those kids are 4-Hers who are participating, and that they work with the 4-H agent. So I mainly, and I was there today, but I was doing a demonstration on cooking with a Dining with Diabetes, because I do diabetes education, I do relationship ed, I do lots of cooking with kids. In fact, we've had several classes at the House of the Carpenter. And so much fun. I love to do that. And then canning. And I will tell you, when I first started at Extension 15 years ago, my degree is in home economics. So I went to college and studied home economics. Family and consumer science is what they changed the name to because it was, I guess, more inclusive, I don't know. And now most of the programs are gone. Well, we didn't even learn to can because I went to school in the late 70s, early 80s, and what we were at that time doing is teaching women how to be able to manage their home and their family. Most of them are working. So how do you work and how do you manage feeding your family? And so basically we were teaching how to eat healthy out of a can. Like go to the grocery store, here's how you buy your food, here's what you should feed your family. So I never learned to can until, I learned through my mom and my aunt, but learned it properly. So if you have learned through your grandma, your mom, your aunt, whoever, great aunt, just know that things have changed over the years. So back in the early 1990s, what they did was Penn State had a research project. So again, another research university like WVU, and they researched some of the different foods that people were preserving. And what they found is oftentimes some of the recipes that were out there, that have been out there generation through generation, are not very safe. In fact, my daughter called me today, wanted to can, we had a ton of banana peppers, I told some of you. And she was like, well, here's a recipe I found online. Well, I'm like, you cannot just go online and find a recipe. Like, I'm your mom, you can't do that, sorry. And I said, I know how people feel about the USDA, the FDA, and all that, the government. Sometimes I said, I get it, but I don't care. You got to do it the right way because I know these recipes are tested. So I get all my recipes through the USDA and anything with cooperative education because we all have to use tested recipes. Okay, no one is going to say, here you go. Now, I will tell you, I've done canning classes before for people and they'll say, well, how do I just can this salsa? And I'll say, well, you don't just can that salsa because you don't know what the pH is. You've got to know the pH so that it's safe. And then people just, I tell you, I go to the fair and people will say, well, I always water bath my green beans. And I'm like, well, that's nice, I'm glad, and I've never been sick. I'm like, well, it takes one time to be sick and die. Because it only requires a small amount, very small amount of botulism to kill you, okay? And when I say small amount, like smaller than the tip of your finger, okay? Botulism is an organism that grows in an anaerobic environment, which what happens when you can, it's not cooked at the high enough temperature. It has to be at 240 degrees. So what does water boil at? 212. So not 240. You can boil it for as long as you want. It's got to be 240. The only thing we can do to boil it to get it to 240 is to pressurize it. And that's why it's important to do all low acid foods in the pressure canner. Okay? So the pressure canner, and many people are afraid to use the pressure canner. I can tell you all it does is take practice. So the pressure canner, you will, if you have one and you haven't had your lid tested lately, I would recommend going to your extension office. So Ohio County has an extension office. They may tell you to come down and see me. That's a good possibility. Or I will call you and I will meet you up here. Done that many times. But we can test these. They're recommended to test them every year. Okay, so if you buy one at a yard sale, a lot of people tell me, oh, I bought one at a yard sale. Great, did you get it tested? Because you don't know if it works. And so you might be like thinking this is great and it's working, and it's not the right pressure. And again, we want to make sure it has to be, like, to get it to 10, if it's at 10, most likely it's at 240. Now, and I'm speaking right now at sea level too. Okay, it changes depending on your altitude, but we're all right here. So we don't need to worry about that. But I can test them, most of them. And also you want to check all of your seals and make sure that they are good, okay? So different parts of the pressure canner is, and you always need to put your jars on some kind of a rack, okay? So this is the rack for a pressure cooker, and I'm going to talk about the pressure cooker first. And then you have different, this is the lid. So you have the gauge, and you also have, in this part here you put on, and so what happens is you put it in, okay, pressure canner, low acid foods, 2 inches of water in here, in the canner, okay, that's all you need. So I'm making green beans, that's what we're gonna do, okay? We're gonna can green beans. You're gonna follow the recipe for your green beans. There's recipes in all of your packets that I gave you too, okay? You're gonna fill it up, you're gonna put your green beans in, you can heat your green beans first, or you can just put them in there a cold pack and put hot water in, okay? 2 different things you can do. You wanna make sure your jars are hot though, all the time. Because otherwise, if the jars aren't hot and we're putting hot water in, it's a good chance that they could burst. I will tell you, and jars are not perfect either. I was actually doing this at, we were having a class through Extension, and I was there, and actually we were learning some new techniques and stuff like that, and the jar broke. It happens. So it does, because the jars are, they're not perfect. Nothing is. So just so you know, but we want to do everything we can, because I say it takes an awful lot of work to can. It takes a lot of work to get everything ready, to clean it, to get it to that point, to make sure your jars are clean, to make sure you have lids. There are lids this year. Last year, and especially the year before, couldn't find lids because of the pandemic. Everybody wanted to can, and more and more people are canning, which is awesome, because we know where our food comes from, and you can make it how you want to make it. So, okay, you're going to put your 2 inches of water in. You've got your jars in here. You're going to put the lid on, and you're going to lock it in place. So I'm not going to worry about all that right now, but there's little lines. They're going to lock it all in. It's going to be locked in place, okay? Then you're going to boil. It's going to begin to boil. You're going to put it on high. Put it on your stove. Now, if you have one of those glass stoves, I will tell you right now, you probably need to check with the manufacturer of that stove, okay? The older ones especially were this stuff was way too heavy. By the time you get all your cans in here and your water and everything, it's too heavy and they break. Now, no one wants to break their stove top either. Personally, I love gas. If you have your choice, it's the easiest because you can regulate it 100 times easier than even electric. But not everybody has that. My office has electric, so we use electric at my office. But check if you have a glass stove. The other thing with the glass stove is, you know how it goes up and down and up and down. Very, very difficult to keep it at the pressure. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So, okay, you're going to put it in. You're going to get it boiling. It's going to take a few minutes to get it boiling. Okay, so you're going to get a nice boil in there, and steam is going to start coming out of here. Now, we also have some other different safeties. So this is what people are concerned about. So we have this safety. This will pop up after when the pressure is built up. There is also another little rubber safety here that if the pressure builds up too much, because you can, there's, if you look at the gauge, you will see there's a place where it's too much, then it should pop up. You shouldn't worry about it popping off, going into the ceiling. You know, you've all heard the stories, I'm sure. Okay, so we're looking for steam. Steam's coming out. Now, this is one of the things that they have changed within the last, probably 10 years, maybe even less, is that you want to make sure there is a stream of steam coming out of there. When you have a nice, not just a spit, because that's what it does at first. You're going to have a nice steam, okay? A whole thing of steam coming out of there. And then you're going to start timing it for 10 minutes, okay? So that's your first 10 minutes. After it gets up to this point, 10 minutes. Now, what is it doing at that point? The pressure is actually building up through the canner, okay? So you want that pressure to build up, okay? So 10 minutes. Let the steam come out nice. It'll spurt a few times, but you have a pretty nice steam, okay? Then after 10 minutes, you're going to put this on, okay? Now it's going to start pressurizing, okay? So once it starts pressurizing, there's a needle on here. Now there's another type of a pressure canner, and it's a jiggler, okay? So it jiggles. And so depending on and you put little weights on it, okay? It's like a weighted jiggler. And you'll put the weights on it depending on what pressure you need it, okay? So for the green beans, I believe it's at 10 pounds of pressure. So you will watch, and this will go up to 10. Now, personally, I go a little bit higher than 10, because if it drops below 10, once you start timing, you have to start counting all over again. You get it back up to 10. Now, saying that, what ends up happening is your green beans are going to be overcooked, okay? They're already going to be somewhat cooked because of what we're doing. But how much cooked do you want them, okay? So you need to think about that. So when I'm doing canning, especially with the pressure canner, even with the water bath, this one is way easier, but we'll get to that. The pressure canner, I really do sit and watch it. Now, there are people who have been canning for their whole life that don't. But I'm going to tell you, if it drops down below, you're starting all over again. And I personally don't have time for that. So I'd rather watch it the first time, make sure I get it, and then we're good to go, and I know it's safe. So I usually get it between 10 and 12. You don't want it too high. And there is an area where it's danger zone. You don't want it down there either, okay? So what you do, you put it on high, you get it up to 10, you let it pressure there, maybe 12, and you start turning down your heat on your stove, okay? So you'll be able to, so you make sure it doesn't get too high, but you don't want to turn it down too low so that it's not pressurized enough, okay? And let me make sure. And I want to make sure the green beans. Did I tell you the right for the pressure? Because I don't have everything memorized. I use my books. I use my recipes all the time because I can't memorize everything. There's too many. And I only do them once a year. Okay, 87 to 115. Let me see. I just want to tell you the right thing because since we're talking about green beans. And I did pickled beets not too long ago. So green beans, okay, so it's actually 11. Unless you have to weight it, then it's 10. So you would make sure it's at 11. I would probably put it between 11 and 13, okay? And it is for 20 minutes. So that 20 minutes starts after you get it to 11. And if it goes back down, like say it goes to 9, you get it back up to 11, and you start counting to 20 again, okay? That's why I'm saying you don't really want to do that. I wouldn't. You leave this on, it might jiggle a little, and I will tell you, so when I first started doing this, steam comes out, you get worried like, oh my gosh, is it okay? Yes, you might have a tiny bit. Now you shouldn't have steam coming out, pouring out on the sides. You shouldn't have it coming out anywhere, because then we have an issue with seals, okay? So you might get a little bit, you might get a few bubbles, but you're not going to get a bunch of steam, okay? Anybody have questions yet on pressure canning? Go ahead.
Kind of diverges, but have you seen the electric pressure canner. It's like so controversial.
It
and
is
you don't
too
have
controversial.
To babysit it. Yeah, but it's like there's mixed.
Too controversial, and I will tell you, as an extension agent,
Yeah.
in fact, someone asked me, and I read all about it, because
Yeah.
it said it follows USDA standards. I mean, I read all about it
Right.
when I got the thing, but still, I was like, let me ask my peers. And one person answered me, which kind of made me mad, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And she was like, that's very interesting. I'll have to check it out. But I haven't heard from her. So I am telling you, I'm going to be going hopefully to a conference in September. I will be sitting in with the canning people, and I will ask them their opinion. Because every time when we have conferences, there's always people there that are doing canning, because again, things do change. New recipes come out. I'm not even saying every recipe there is I gave you, certainly not. I will tell you, this book here, so easy to preserve, is like the Bible to me of canning. It has so much. But it doesn't just have canning stuff in here, but it also has, it has how to freeze things. You will notice I put freezing vegetables. We'll talk shortly about that. But it has drying, if you choose to dry things. So there's all kinds of things. You know, I have people that'll call me and they'll say they've done something, and yet the worst thing to me is to say that's probably not safe, because I know how hard people work. Like, I really do. I appreciate that, but I'm just like, but as an extension agent and good conscience, I can't recommend things that are not tested, because I don't want anyone to get, because I certainly wouldn't want someone to die and then say, well, you said it was okay. And I have no guarantees. Okay, of course, there's no guarantees in life, but if you follow the directions, you're going to be more than likely to be okay. The other thing is, once you open them, like, okay, so we canned them, they're good, you let it cool down, you don't ever put a cold rag, so let me, these are all the stories, put a cold rag over it, no. You let it come down on its own. You don't ever go like this, which then lets pressure out, because that's another way you're going to break your jars. You let it all do naturally. So we're talking another maybe 15 minutes or so as the pressure comes down, okay? You're gonna leave it there. If you can possibly, like I said, I have gas at home, all I have to do is turn my gas stove off. If I'm at my office, I have to jiggle it off, because then it's a quicker process. But I'm very careful. Okay, you're doing that. Your canner should not open unless there's no more pressure in there, okay? Always make sure, and then once that happens, you'll take this off, okay? You'll see this down to 0. Once this hits 0, then you can take this off, okay? Open up your canner, always open it away from you so you don't get steam in the face, okay? This also, like I said, this will be up, it will also drop when the pressure goes down, and then you will be able to take your jars out. Now, when you take your jars out, I always have, like, you can either put them on a cookie rack or cooking rack, like where you're going to put a cake rack, or I usually just put it on a dry, clean towel, like a tea towel. And I'll just put mine there out of, like, I don't put it in front of my air conditioner or near my vents. I put it in a place that there's not a lot of activity going through, because you don't want there to be a whole lot of change in temperature either. So you're going to have that, and then this, to me, the best part is to start here and pop, 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 pop. So somewhere, sometimes right away, which is what I love, because then I know they're all good. But within 24 hours, I can tell you it's never taken that long. Usually if they don't work right away, then right away, then I know that it's not going to work. Within 24 hours, if it hasn't, and you're still canning, okay, you have other ones that you're going to can today anyway. You can, all you have to do is that, you have your lid on, everything's good, go. Have your beans in there, your liquid, take the lid off, make sure you wipe really well around the top again, put a new lid on, throw away the one you had, and I'm just talking about the disc, okay? You'll throw that disc away and then try again. You can do that, or probably what I would do is I would put it in my refrigerator and use it in the next day or so. I mean, that's what I would do. I wouldn't want to put them again, just because they're going to be really cold. But you can. Very few times has that happened to me. Now, I know there have been lids. I would highly recommend not buying like Walmart lids. In fact, don't buy Walmart jars. Only buy like Ball, which one's the Kerr, I think Ball and Kerr have actually gone together. Sometimes you can get them at yard sales. Don't buy Walmart ones though. They're not made to can. Buy lids. In fact, when I was out there, I was even like looking in there and like, are these lids good? Because at first I couldn't find what I wanted. I would also buy the lids that are Kerr or Ball, okay? And you need, and they're the discs, and then they have the ring on top. That's what we use. Now, if you are a processor, I am not talking about processing. So like if you have special, if you have a special license or that you've been, you know, whatever, approved by the agriculture of West Virginia, it's a different system. They are able to use a one lid system, but that's not what I'm teaching. I'm teaching home canning, okay? It's a different process, I will tell you that, okay? They do it differently. So, let me go back to what we're doing. The lids, the jars come out, you set them down, you don't turn them upside down, you don't put something over them, okay? You just let them sit there. Now, I say all this because this is what people do. I just saw an email go through, they were sharing it with from my coworkers, in that somebody online, maybe some of you saw it, I don't know, maybe you've been on TikTok or something, but they are canning green beans. It's that easy way to can green beans. They did the whole process with filling it up and all that. They put it in, I don't know if they put it in water, in like something, and put it in the oven, 350 degrees, and cooked it for so long. No. You can't do that, okay? That's not an approved method. I just don't want anyone getting sick. So that's why I teach this way, okay? Now, like I said, people will tell me, I've never got sick, I've been doing this for years. Don't cook outside, they cook over wood. None of that should be good. It's kind of like the same thing with cooking on those glass stoves that go up and down and up and down.
My question is just, you said, okay, we put it on the towel or whatever. I was always taught that you have space between them.
Oh yeah, you should have like, yeah, don't have them touching. Just about an inch.
Make sure like
Yep.
that's like sound advice.
Yep, no, good advice. About an inch apart. Okay, yeah, you just don't want them, yeah. Yeah, just so they have room to cool down. And then what you'll do, now how do you know? So if you haven't heard pops, and usually like, okay, I've heard 6 pops, I know they all popped, okay? Now, if for some reason I didn't, you don't always. Sometimes they pop when they're in the canner. What you do, usually I do it, if it depends on what time, 12 hours later maybe, hitting the top, and what should happen, it shouldn't pop back up. Okay, if the lid pops back up, then they are not processed. Now, some people will say, okay, I made my tomatoes. This happens a lot of times with tomatoes because oftentimes people cook them and they put the lids on and you hear it pop. Oh, it's already good to go. No, you didn't process it. Okay, it's different. You still didn't get the bacteria out of there. And with tomatoes, and that's what we're going to do tonight, we only need to water bath them. Okay, because they are right in between high and low acid. They used to be high acid, but because people don't like everything high acid, they're lower acid now. And so they're right in that middle, but we add lemon juice to them to make them higher acid. Okay, you don't taste it. Okay, just so you know. You can buy citric acid. It costs a lot of money though.
Are you doing all those new, Ninja comes with a pressure function?
Excuse me?
Ninja,
The Ninja, yeah. No, I would not, don't can in them. You can make your, yeah, you can do all kind of things. Don't can in them. Yeah, let's not can in our Ninjas. And honestly, several years ago, there was a supposed electric one, and they brought it in, and I looked at it, and I was like, I knew right then it wasn't safe. But, again, like if you have something new's out, this is what happens. And then I always check it out. And unless I know for sure, I'm going to say no. Okay? Because, not that I'm the expert on everything, because I don't know everything that comes out. I really don't. But usually when something like that comes out, I am on enough listservs that I'm going to find out. Okay? So it's probably going to come to me. Or it's going to come to somebody in my unit at the university, and they're going to send it to us because they are going to know, okay, we're getting questions on this. Let's make sure we know what the right answer is. Because we don't want anyone to, first of all, buy something that isn't safe or use it. That would be worse. But also, if it is safe, we want you to be able to use it. kind of like the water bath, which I love. But I went to a conference, learned how to use it properly, and did all that, and so I know. Okay, any other questions on, so it's all, now you can pressure can tomatoes if you want. But you don't have to, okay? Most people would prefer water bath, but you can. Okay, any questions on the pressure canner?
I just was gonna
No,
ask
go.
what the time difference between water bathing and pressure canning and tomatoes is.
It's right here. Let's see. So if you, see, these are all, yeah, these are all, yeah, I'd have to look it up for sure.
Cause I always wanna do whatever's faster.
Yeah, I know, I'm with ya. But remember,
I'm talking about when if it's either or.
right, I'm
One
gonna
is
say,
right time.
so remember, you have to build up the pressure, let it cool down, and I'm gonna say, I'm thinking it's around 25 minutes, but you know what, I'm really making that up out of my head from somewhere, and I could be totally wrong. I'd have to look it up, which I will, once we get into the kitchen, okay? Because I wanna tell you exactly, and, oh, the other thing is, everybody thinks salt is used as a preservative, and yes, it is. We know salt's a preservative, but you don't need to put salt in your tomatoes or your green beans. In fact, I highly recommend you not doing that, because if you go to the store and buy unsalted green beans, they're way cheaper, right? And then, do you want it sitting in that salt water for a whole year, or maybe not a year? But if they're in there, you could have them in there, and they're good for a year. They're good for longer than a year, but they have the best quality a year, okay? So they're probably good for a really long time unless they get cloudy or, you know, something like that, because they are canned properly. But we always say a year is when you're really getting your best, they're gonna taste the best, okay? So they don't need to sit in that salt water. You don't need to add it, okay? So I never add salt to my stuff. If I wanna salt it, I salt it when it's on my table, like if you were buying fresh, and then salt it when I'm done. But that's just, you know, why salt extra stuff? We don't need to put all that extra salt in that water and all of that, okay? I didn't really talk too much about headspace and all that, but all the recipes are gonna tell you, and what that means is that at the top of the lid, you're gonna see different rings, and you'll be able to, like, it'll say a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch, like I make jelly a lot of times, and it's a smaller headspace, and the reason that's just like to allow it to boil up, kind of, okay? So follow what it is, otherwise, again, you could have issues with the lid popping off, okay? So most of them are around a 1/2 inch, most of them are around that. The tomatoes, I think, are a 1/2 inch, if I remember. Yeah, 1/2 inch headspace, yep. Also, you will see plastic lids. No, we don't recommend them. The only time you would want to use them is after you're done canning. The only thing, you don't need that ring on there, like to store them. The only thing you need is the disc. And so they do have the plastic you can put on top of the disc, okay? But we don't can with the plastic lids and all of that, okay? Any questions? I'm trying to think of everything that people might ask me. There's always a ton, but I gave you tons of information. There are there's questions in there. There's one called Ready, Set, Go, knowing which canner to use. Because like I said, these are low acid, this would be high acid. This is what you would use for fruits, pickling. You can use this for jelly. I did pickled beets in here, but that's, so again, you would want to make, check and see, it's going to tell you what to do.
I have a question. We don't have to sterilize our jars
Yes,
anymore?
you do.
We do have
You do.
to?
So, you do. So, but first of all, you want them to be hot. So what I recommend doing is, first of all, you want to wash them. And then I usually get my canner ready. And then I'll put my jars in there and I let them boil for 10 minutes while I'm getting everything else ready.
Right, and that's how I always did it, and then
Somebody told you didn't have to do it.
yeah, that you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, well,
But
your lids or
the jars.
the jars. Yeah, well,
Feels weird.
depends on how long you're going to keep. Like if you're going to do it less than 10 minutes and less, they do recommend,
Yeah.
unless there's some other information out. Over that, they probably are gonna get sterilized.
That's what your information says right here.
Yeah, is that what it says?
Yeah, it says that under 10 minutes sterilized.
Mhm.
Over that, you don't have to.
You don't
It's
have to.
recommended.
I
Okay.
usually, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you why I do, because you want your jars to be hot anyway,
Mhm.
and you, I mean, it takes me at least 10 minutes to get everything ready. For me, now, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Now, the lids, on the other hand, we used to boil our lids.
Mhm.
No, don't boil your lids, just wash them, okay? Wash them up really good, soap and water, wash your rings, put them on the side, and then you just put them on. You don't have to. So we really don't want to boil our lids because of that piece that's on there. It could, I mean, it could mess up the processing of it. So don't boil your lids. But whether, I mean, like again, if it's under 10 minutes, a lot of things I do, especially water bathing, but not always because the tomatoes take 55 minutes. It just depends. I usually do. But yeah, you're right. You don't have to. The one thing is make sure though that you do let the steam come out of here. That is something that most people didn't know, that I can tell you, like when I teach, they'll be like, oh, I never did that before. So that's just one of the newer things. Okay. So, and you're gonna wipe your, and we're gonna do all this. You're gonna wipe the lids off the top too, okay? All right, let me think. Any other questions on the pressure canner? You're gonna check your jars every time too, just to make sure there's not any cracks or anything in it, especially if you've had them for a while. Like I use mine over and over and over again, year after year after year. Are they gonna last forever? No, they're not. I mean, I know they're not because it's glass. They're gonna last a long time, but not forever. So you wanna just kind of look at that. Look into pints and quarts. Most of the times we're saying not, be careful doing the half gallons. A lot of people used to do the half gallons, and it's probably not a great idea. Most of the time they're not saying to do that anymore because you're just not getting enough of the boiling pressure that can go around them. So I would say I don't think there's anything that they recommend you doing it. I mean, I'm not talking sauerkraut, I'm not talking anything like that right now. So most of them are just pints and quarts now too, okay? All right, anything on that? Okay, water bath, same kind of a deal. And I'm gonna show you this one real quick. This is just a regular water bath you're gonna put on your stove, all right? This is what most people got. They're not very expensive. I couldn't even tell you what things, like I said, I know everything is so expensive right now, even the pressure canners probably are. But I didn't check on the prices to see what they are. They were $100 before COVID because I bought a new one, but I'm gonna gather they're more than that now. You, again, wanna make sure you're using a, some kind of a rack to put your jars in. Same kind of deal. Again, whether or not you sterilize them or not, I mean, you want to make sure they're washed anyway, so like I always run mine through the dishwasher and then I put them in the water. That's just what I do. Because, again, I work too hard to do them to have any issues. So I'm just telling you, I probably go over above because I know how much work it is. And I know how much work my husband spends gardening. So I want to make sure they're, you know, good. So with this, again, it does take a little longer. But you can water, like I said, water bath a lot of things. And a lot of people, that's what they want to do. Tomatoes are a biggie. Tomatoes are easy to do. I mean, they really are. And so, like, if you're gonna make pasta sauce and put meat in them, now we're talking pressure. Because anything with meat would be pressure. So people will call me and be like, can I do vegetable soup? And I'm just gonna water bath it. And I'll be like, what's in your vegetable soup? And, you know, they'll, potatoes, green beans. No, you can't. You gotta put in carrots, all those things. You gotta pressure can it. And, you know, and there's a recipe in here, because I know everybody has different vegetable soup recipes. But there's a really good recipe in here. I was kind of looking for somebody who called, and it kind of gives you an idea of different vegetables that you might put in it, and then how long you're cooking, because you're trying to cooking it at the longest. So like when I do jelly, it's like at a half a pint. So let's say you decide you want to do a half a pint of pickles, because you want to give them away for Christmas, whatever. You want to do it at the same as a pint, like process it. That's a good question probably, because like say, okay, I'm going to make maybe I'm gonna do those pickled peppers like my husband did, and I'm gonna give them away for Christmas. And you wanna make sure they're safe. So do it the same as the pint, okay? So whatever it is for a pint, which is 10 minutes, do the same for half a pint, okay? Whatever, like go down one. And you really wanna fill it up as best as you can. That was one of the questions my daughter said, well, how much do I put in? She's kind of a newer canner, and by herself, I mean anyway, without me, and I'm like, pack it in as good as you can. And then you're gonna put the water in, and then you have tools that you're gonna use that goes around the outside. My tools, hopefully they're in one of these boxes, I'll pull them out. And then you're gonna go around the outside to get the bubbles out. Don't use metal, because then it could crack the jar. So always use, and if you don't have the tools, no big deal. It just looks like a plastic knife. You get a plastic knife and do that, and go around the outside. And what you'll see is the bubbles come out, okay? It's kind of cool too. So, like I said, water bath is so much easier. Now I want to show, okay, so two things. This I want to show you. And you know what, Hannah, do you want to go ahead and start this? Put some water in here and get this boiling, because we're going to do the tomatoes. So this to me is such a cool thing. And so I blanch in this when I do my green beans or whatever I'm going to freeze. But for tomatoes, you can put them in here, and then you can and see the holes. It's so nice, because I can't even tell you how many things I bought to try. Like they would say, use this, and nothing ever worked, but this works because of the holes. And it boils, you put the green beans, you're not going to fill it up. You're only going to put, like, I only usually put a cup or maybe a little more than that in here. Boil, because you want to boil it quick, because you only want to blanch it for a couple minutes. And then you can pull this right out, dump it right in the ice cold water, put it right back in, and then add more. And then maybe just add more water or something. It's so nice. To me, this was the best $20 I've spent. We're going to do that with our tomatoes.
How much you want?
Just fill it up. I would say fill it up pretty good, because we're just gonna boil the tomatoes in there. Yeah.
You want an ice bath too?
Excuse me.
You want an ice bath too?
I think probably, yeah, that would be great. So let me show you this. So this came out, and when people were having those glass stoves, they were like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna can my tomatoes? Well, this is awesome, because it's electric. And to be honest, it's not hot. It doesn't get my kitchen so hot. It's not as heavy, because you can see it has a spigot on it. So I sit it right like this, and my sink is right here. So when I'm done, all I have to do is turn the spigot on, and the water comes out. I don't have to pick it up and move it. Like, to me, that's all wonderful. Now, again, these were probably $150 before COVID. And they, the last time I looked, they were really expensive. If you could even find them. I was trying to help somebody find them who had a glass stove, and I couldn't even find them. And again, you can, if you put it on high, you actually are just sterilizing your jars. I put them in there for 10 minutes, and then you turn it all the way up. It fits on here super nice. It all goes back together super nice. Like, I'm telling you, and you bought one, and you love it too. I really do. It's just so convenient. And it's just so nice. And again, same thing, has a rack. You put it in, fill it with water. Again, remember, I know what I didn't say. 2 inches of water for this. 1 to 2 inches above the jars for this. Okay? So only 2 inches of water for this. Because if you had too much water in there, it will take forever to build up the pressure. Okay? 2 inches in the pressure canner, 1 to 2 inches above the jars in these, okay? And so, again, both of them the same. And so you're gonna heat your jars up, make sure there's enough water. Always have another a pan of water boiling beside you, or maybe if you have a teapot or something, have it boiling. Because then, if it goes down, you can add it. Okay, because you don't want to add cold water, because then what's going to happen? We're starting over again. Okay, and with this, once you get the jars back in, got the lids on, did the whole thing, okay, they're ready to go. You put this on, and what this does, it keeps everything. It helps it keep it more evenly. Okay, it processes it evenly. And again, and it folds up so nice, I love it. I really do. I don't try to sell them, but I am telling you, they are wonderful because it's so hot in the kitchen, even if you have air conditioning. And once you start canning it, all that steam is coming everywhere, it's hot. And then it takes for a while to let that go down in your house. This is wonderful. So, if you can find them, and if it's not necessary, it certainly isn't. I like to just show it, and if you do have that glass top, it's a wonderful addition to your canning. Okay, so, any question on water bathing?
Is there any problem with water bathing outside?
Um,
High BTU.
I know, they don't recommend you canning outside, because again, keeping it at the right, making sure that it keeps the boiling, keeping it at the right temperature. So most of the time they say don't. What do you, like you have like a camp
We've got
stove?
like 40,000 BTU water burn.
And what are you using, gas? Propane. Is it pretty like protected and everything from the
Sure,
wind
it's in the
and
garage.
as much as,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you gotta have it, keep it to a boil. I will tell you, I had this outside one time because I was doing a demonstration at the fair. And I had the hardest time getting it to come up to stay boiling. I'm just telling you. But if you can get it to a boil, and if you have that much BTU,
Yeah.
and you're using propane, I was using electric, I was also plugging it into an extension cord. Nothing was right, okay? But they wanted me to demo, and nothing was working. So, yeah, so just think about that. If you can get it to keep it boiling, I wouldn't pressure can out there probably.
I think you have to put something under it too, so it doesn't warp your pot. Like, I think there's like,
Yeah.
something you use on an induction to make your induction cooktop, something along those lines where you slide it under.
So it's an
to protect-
induction, is that what that
Well,
is?
no, just like,
No,
I think it
it's
can
straight
warp.
up gas.
It's
I
Well,
think it can warp them if it's
Straight up, yeah.
super high BTUs,
Yeah.
like the actual canner.
Yeah. Yeah, so you wanna, I can find out for you. I can get the answer for that, okay? So I will find out, make sure your email's on here, and I will get back with you and I'll check. So you wanna know if you can can outside on a 400 BTU.
it might not be, but it's high.
It's high, that's okay.
It's much higher than my stove.
Okay. It's much higher,
Yeah.
okay. Propane. I can find out. Let me see if I can do some, most things they say don't can outside, but I've not had that question, so I will have to check it out, okay? All right, any other?
Can I water bath my Ninja?
No, probably not. And the reason is because it has to be the right height for everything. And that's the other thing, it has to be the right height. I know, I have a Ninja, I just bought one of those creamies. I've been watching them on TV for the last 6 months, or 3 months or whatever, and I was like, man, that thing looks so fun. I thought it was all healthy ice cream. It is not all healthy ice cream, I can tell you that right now. It is not, but it is fun. And it is very yummy ice cream. Anyway, off topic there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do tomatoes. So what we're gonna do with our tomatoes, and here we go, we canned tomatoes. I told you already that they're in between that high-low acid, so we're gonna add, and we have quart jars, correct? And
Yeah, I brought pints.
oh, okay, oh yeah, pints, pints is better. Because that's, yeah, pints. We have pint jars. We are, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna put a tablespoon of lemon juice in the bottom of each jar. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Now remember, you're not gonna put these on your counter at home, okay? You're gonna take them home and put them in your refrigerator, and you're gonna use them in the next week or so, okay? Who can't use tomatoes? I mean, I'm telling you what, I was never so happy to have my tomatoes canned, and we had a horrible tomato crop last year. But I canned all the tomatoes that I could. And every time I was like, I'm so happy I can pull these out and make my, whatever I was making. I'd make, whatever. Chili, a lot of chili. I have a friend who doesn't even can the tomatoes. She makes them all into juice. And that's what she does. I don't, because I like the tomatoes. And like I said, I was never so happy to just be able to go downstairs and they were my tomatoes, the ones we grew out of the garden, not just from Kroger's, and be able to use them. So really, they're not hard to do. To me, this is one of the easiest things to do, is the tomatoes. I mean, it's all not that hard. Like beets, I just did pickled beets. It's just a matter of cleaning them. It's that whole process you get up to. You got to clean them with the tomatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to dip them in that hot water for a few minutes, take them out. I don't think we need a cold water. I'm trying to remember. Let me look here. I don't remember using the pectin.
If we're peeling them, then
We just peel them off. Yeah, so we probably are going to dip them in cold water and then pull off the skins. Okay? Cut them in, and we can cut them in quarters. You can cut them in halves. Okay? Whatever you want to do. There's a lot of things you can do, and if you look, if you have the tomato one on page 2, it gives you a whole bunch of things that you can do. So again, you're going to wash the jars. You're going to, and then you're going to make sure that you're going to process them. It's going to tell you all about it. Let's see, where's the tomatoes? Here we go. Sorry, page 4. So we're going to wash the tomatoes and dip in boiling water 30 to 60 minutes or until skins split. Dip in cold water, slip off the skins. You're going to remove the core. And I brought a bunch of knives just in case you didn't have them. I was like, oh, I hope they have a bunch. Because I grabbed a bunch from work today since I was down there. Take the skins off. They're going to come right off. And then take the cores out. You can leave them whole, but since we're using the pints, I just cut them up, cut them in 4s maybe. And then you're going to pack them in the jars. And like, again, you're going to pack them as much as you can. But you're going to have the lemon juice in there at first. So all of them, you're going to put the lemon juice right in the bottom of the jars. Okay? Now, you can hot pack, and that's add enough water to cover the tomatoes. You're going to bring the tomatoes and water to a boil and for 5 minutes. I very rarely hot pack them because they fall apart. Okay? What I usually do is cold pack, or raw pack, excuse me. Fill the jars with the raw peeled tomatoes. That's what we'll do tonight. And you can add salt if you want. I don't recommend it, but you can. Whatever, floats your boat. And then you're going to add hot water to it. Okay? And then you're going to cover them with hot water. You're going to take the air out around the edges, clean the top off. I use paper towels that I clean the rims of it off. And then I'm going to put my lid on. I'm carefully not going to touch the inside of it. And then you're going to fingertip seal it. Okay? Any questions? It really is not that hard. It's really pretty easy. And you can crush them. It gives you, and then there's recipes here. Salsa, tomato sauce, you got the whole gamut. There's a bunch of stuff. Ketchup, I think, is in here. Spaghetti sauce without meat. Barbecue sauce you can make. I've not made all these. We've never had it, to be honest, we've never had enough tomatoes to do a bunch. And I prefer just having the tomatoes because then I can pull them out and do whatever I want with them once they're done. But, and then you can see how long it takes. So depending on what it is you're making, it's there on page 2. They're 50 minutes if we have only pints, 55 for quarts, but you can see, and that's pretty much the same. Now, whole or half tomatoes packed in juice or without added liquid. So that would be you're pushing it in, you're just letting that juice come out, no liquid. We're adding the liquid 2 hours, okay? But if you choose not to, then you're cooking them for 95 minutes. So that's a long time. Now, I will tell you, if you're cooking something for 95 minutes, you better have another pot of hot water boiling on the stove, okay? Because you're gonna have evaporation, you're gonna have water loss. So you're going to want to make sure you're adding that hot water so that it keeps on boiling, okay? I've always added my water to it so that I don't have to I don't want to do all that because it tastes the same, it's fine. Okay, any questions? All right, so one thing that is really helpful is, of course, using a
Funnel. That's not the right word.
It is the right word, a funnel. Use a funnel, okay? And then here is the lifter. So this is our jar lifter, and this you just put it in and pull it right out. Definitely need a jar lifter. This is just one type. There's other ones too. even think you really need one of them anymore. And here is the bubble getter out. Okay? So this is what you're gonna get your bubbles out. And here, this side actually will tell you how many, if it's a half inch, quarter inch, whatever, your headspace. So you can just put it right on the side of the jar, put it inside, and you can see what it is. Okay? So these are kind of, we'll put these back there and you can mess with these. Yeah, and here's this one too. This one works just as well. I love this one because it's just heavy duty. But whatever you have, whatever you find, I like these. And then I think that's pretty much everything. I mean, all right. Any other questions before we go ahead in the kitchen? All right, let's go in the kitchen. Yeah, you can come on over too. Yeah, come on over. Do we have? We gotta wash them. The tomatoes, they're not washed, right?
They're not washed, no.
Yes. I have a there's a strainer over there. Do you have one too? I see one. Yeah, strainers. We'll grab the strainers. Yeah, come on over and work in pairs. We can come on over here. There's the red strainer too. Put some tomatoes in there. Then we'll dip them and pull them out. Do you have the other thing? Do you have a no. Yes. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go. Ladle, a ladle. Okay, this will work. Perfect. All right, perfect. We have slotted spoons. We got some slotted spoons here. All right. Yeah, go ahead and take some tomatoes and go wash them. Yep. Go ahead, let's just break up in a couple groups. We have a couple strainers. You want to get some? You know, and another thing is we always want to try to use our best produce.
possible. No, because it'll only take like 3 of those to fill that jar up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, they
Go
don't
wash
need a
the
bunch.
tomatoes, someone else can have the rest of them.
Yep.
Go scrub.
We want to use the best. These are really nice tomatoes. They are absolutely beautiful. Where did they get these tomatoes?
These are grits. They're hydroponic, I think.
They are beautiful.
Are we doing all of them?
But what if you're freezing? What you want to do is, and a lot of people wonder why they have issues when they're freezing, and it's because they don't blanch the food first. I mean, you want to blanch it, and I talked a little bit about that. You can use this black kettle as blancher too. And you want to make sure you're putting them in freezer bags. A lot of people will just use whatever they have, or freezer containers. So you don't want to just use your regular Tupperware, your regular Rubbermaid. You want to make sure you're using freezer. Make sure it's freezer because it has a thicker wall that you're not going to get that. Again, we worked so hard on this. We don't want to have it to get freezer burned. Okay. So what we'll do is as soon as this starts boiling, we will dump it in. Whoops, maybe we are there. We are. So go ahead, a couple of you, come on over, put the, I want to there's definitely more light in here. But maybe not. Oh yeah, you found it. Yeah, does that work? Yeah, just so we can see better. Okay, who wants to go first? Go ahead. Just take turns doing it. I'm not going to tell, just go do it. Dump them in. We're just dumping them in. Just a few. I wouldn't put a whole bunch because otherwise they're going to get cold. And you just want it to, the skins to break. Once the skins break, you're going to pull them out, and then you're going to pour them. We're pouring them, and you're going to peel them and pour them. Cut them in quarters. I would put them in quarters since we're using quart jars. Okay? And yeah, this is absolutely good. You can smell it. You'll have to light it because the pilot's out.
You want the walk to the waters, the boil.
Yeah, wait for it to boil. How's that? Did they all split? Okay, put them in fours. course, what?
That was started already.
Yes, it is, so,
This is your.
okay, you're gonna order them, oh, take that, yep, cut the center out, cut the center out, yep,
Just like, all like
you
this.
got it.
Sitting out back.
Did they get that? Oh, yeah, they did get that, it's starting to diffuse now. Yeah, instead of pulling it out this time, let's just go ahead and. Yeah, I'm gonna. Size bath, so we're good. Yes, because it's not an automatic pilot. It's not a home well, this is how all gas stoves used to be.
Oh my goodness.
So they didn't, yes. It was awful. I had one that was like this. And I hated it. Because sometimes, like if you had bigger, that was my opinion, but this is how they all work. But,
Do you use those jars, the
Oh.
glass one?
oh yeah.
And then you
definitely.
just buy the lid, right? 'Cause
Yeah, just
it is
buy the
something
lids.
You kind of reuse.
You can reuse this part if it's not all rusted.
Okay,
But you cannot reuse this part.
and can you buy just that?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know how.
Maybe you can. Just saying, just because that's just how everything is right now.
That is so true.
You know, I was able to buy some though this year. So yes, you should be able to. Did you get your babies in? Okay, grab a couple jars. Squish them on in there. Yeah, squish them in there good. Yeah. Yeah, see, you know what? These are wide mouth jars, so it's taking a little more.
So I read a couple
Whoa.
things about tomatoes.
Yeah?
You can
Yeah.
process all of them in just like your high speed
No,
blender.
yeah, just get some more. What? I'm sorry.
You can process them in like a high speed blender if you wanted to make like a tomato sauce so you
Well,
don't
that's fine too.
waste any of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that sounds amazing. And then the other thing, it said you can just, if you're overrun and overwhelmed, you can just pop them in your freezer. And then when you take them out and defrost them, the skins come right off and you can process them like in October or
Really?
November, like when you have time to deal with them.
Really? Huh.
Like
I would
clean 'em,
think, because
clean 'em
usually
and
what
put 'em in the
happens,
freezer.
so like, you clean them and put them in the freezer?
Just like wash them off.
Uh-huh. Like
Put
just
'em in the
wash them.
freezer.
Put 'em in the
Cold.
freezer.
Just been washed.
And then they said when they defrost, the skins will naturally loosen and you just take the skins right off.
And then you can process them
then
and
deal,
You get
or,
tomatoes,
you
use
know,
'em.
yeah.
or just keep them frozen.
Yeah, because my
Yeah.
problem is I get so overrun at a certain point that stuff's just out there on the vine.
I know.
it's
And unless
like-
you find somebody just to give them, I know.
That's all right. And so then, how much lemon juice are we putting in?
A tablespoon of lemon juice. Did you guys put lemon juice in the bottom? Oh, you forgot to put your lemon juice. Okay, the lemon juice is supposed to be in the bottom, but it's okay. We're not. So you want to put the lemon juice right in the bottom.
Everybody else gets the lemon first.
Do we have a tablespoon?
Okay, so I'm not seeing a tablespoon.
I found one.
Did you find one? You know where things are. Yep. Yep. And then let's just grab it. Oh, here they are. What? Put another tomato in there. Yeah, put some water in there. They are very juicy tomatoes. Yep. And then you can actually probably just add water to that.
Alright.
You can.
So
I
then you
put
need
another
a
tomato
tomato.
in there.
Yeah.
Yep. You can just get the water over here, and here's a
Now how much tomatoes are?
a tablespoon.
Tablespoon.
I'm gonna put them right in here. Let's put it here. Let's do it right here. I know.
Yeah, that's-
This is your biggest issue always. Room, right?
Yes.
Finding room to do things. And yeah. There you go. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Go ahead and fill that up, and then you'll use that those green. Did you guys put you're not gonna put water in yours?
No.
No.
I'm just gonna put them in my fridge.
Because you're just gonna put it in the fridge. Okay, so if you were canning them, you would want to put water in them, okay?
Yeah.
And then you'll use these green things to get the bubbles out around the edges, okay?
Yes. And then we just throw these away?
Yep, just pitch them. Unless, I could take them home and give them to the chickens, but I don't think I'll do that. That's what my husband would be like, you didn't bring all that home for the
Yeah.
chickens? Nope, I didn't.
Do you want to leave it all the way?
Yeah, you can, yeah, and if you want to, go ahead and put more in.
Okay.
And then I would put some water in,
Okay.
and then the water should cover them.
Okay.
Yep, you want to try that and put it so that the water covers it, yeah? Here's your water here. It's boiling water,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Boiling water, yep, and then you'll have that covering in. Yep, you got it, and then here, and then set it down, let me grab this for you, and then you're gonna, go ahead and set it down, and then you see, yep, and then, so you're gonna just go around the edges, yep, and then it'll, yep. You can just pick it up and go down, yep, pick it up and go, you got it, yep, and see how the water goes, see how it goes down then? The bubbles come out. If you need more water, then you can put more water in, and then you can see, because the water should be covering the tomatoes, okay?
Okay, so we need to put more.
A little bit more water, see how it went down a lot? Yep. Did everything? Yeah, it's a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. Just a little, just a tiny bit.
I never know what the things are called, but it's like cucumber will sometimes do that. Yeah.
Yep, put that right on. Yep, and then you're fingertipping it. Yep. Like you're not really.
Oh, okay.
You're just fingertipping it. You want to make sure it's tight enough. Yep, that's perfect.
Okay.
And then what I normally do is then, once it gets all processed, you just want to write on the top the date and the year so that you know. And then try your best to, just like we do with groceries, you know what I mean? You should try to rotate them in and out, yeah. Everything looks great, guys. These tomatoes are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, they are.
Did you put any water?
That's it?
Oh, you didn't put water in yours? Okay, so if you didn't put water in it, then you're 95 minutes cooking it, just so you remember that. But you're not cooking it at all. Yeah, yours kind of, I'm just telling you, that's the only difference. If you put the water in it, what you're doing is you're adding water to it so that it's not quite so much tomatoes. You're making it much more dense with only the tomatoes and the juice. And so when it's more dense, that's why when I say it's so important to follow the recipes, they try to make sure that you understand, like, if it tells you to cut it a certain amount, that's what you should do, because they're measuring all the density. I mean, you know how that, yes. Is that the right size? Is that the right, let me look at that. Because you might not have it up high, is that a half inch? Did you wipe the top off? Now, we want to remember too to wipe the tops off, because if you don't, if you have like a tomato seed or something, so I would like get a
He just passed
get
his
something, I
contracting
just want you to
test.
know, because you're learning this.
So he
You want it,
is
so
a
it could
full-fledged
probably go a little
licensed
higher, and you want to cover your
contractor.
tomatoes,
And he
okay?
has a-
And then you see all of this, you want to wipe all that off with a paper towel, okay? And then put the lid on. On the reason is because it's so easy, like this looks like it could easily be a seed or something, or part of a tomato, see it? That one little
Yeah.
thing could,
So we
or
are
could not, prevent it from sealing properly, okay? And like again, I'm all about doing it the right way the first time because it's so much work to do it. Costs a lot of work. It's not just my work, it's my, my family's work for gardening. It's all a lot. And everybody wants to do work.
just trying to get along with my That's what I'm always saying.
So Cheryl, when they're done with their jar, are they done? Is there anything else?
No, we just need to clean up. That's it, and then we're done.
Then